always in a oh boy moment when we go live because this is terrifying. Marcus, are you
Yes,
terrified?
I
Yes,
am.
yes, I am. Pretty much from the first moment I asked you if you would do this, you've felt like this, right?
But it's all good. We're gonna get through it.
Yeah, we're gonna do this.
We're gonna
So,
get through it.
can you hear me? Okay. Am I
Yes.
breaking up? Am I
Oh
good?
wow, I can hear you. Yes, loud and clear. I had to turn it down for a second. Like,
Okay, turn me down in your ears on your end,
yes.
because yeah, we're gonna have to
Okay, there we go. Yeah,
move
that's a
the
little better.
headsets back a little.
Okay, there you
Yeah,
go. All right.
this has been an adventure, guys.
That is
Welcome to the Level Up Igloo on today, the beginning of November. First of all, I don't know where this year went, but I'm very excited to be here because we're introducing Marcus Medlock. So, if you don't know who Marcus is, Marcus, say hi.
hi. How are
He
you?
hails from where? Where do you hail from?
Jacksonville, Florida, home of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's your team, right?
That is my team. Yes.
Yes.
Well, one of them.
So, well, one of them,
Yeah.
yes. What are the others for the sports enthusiasts
Uh,
that are listening?
I am a I am an alumnus of the University of Florida, so I'm a very big Gator fan.
Go Gators.
Go Gators. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So, this is a very interesting episode for all of us because um, Marcus is my host for the YouTube live series. And every week at 4:30 Mountain Time, we do a live series that then Marcus hosts to put Level Up and everything that's to come on display. However, the first four episodes of the series are specifically designated to introduce each of us. So, me, Justine, now it's you, Marcus. Next is Jesse, and then we'll launch into where we go from here. But you are an interesting character in this right now because you're the one that's the host of this. So this is a flip side of me hosting and introducing you on the YouTube live. Who is Marcus Medlock and why is he a part of Level Up and what's to come? So I am honored to introduce you. Marcus, you waved and said hi to the public. Is there anything you would like to say before I jump into introducing you?
I would just like to say, first of all, I'm completely honored that Krista saw enough in me um, that she would ask me to do this and be a part of this. And I'm glad to, well, not tonight, but going forward, be your host.
So, were you scared when I asked you to be the host?
Oh my gosh, I was terrified. I had an introvert's heart attack, basically. Yeah.
Please tell me about this experience when I asked you one random time, I don't know, like last fall, and
Yes,
said,
last.
last spring maybe?
I don't think it was quite that far back. I think it was like in the summer, wasn't it?
It was probably the end of spring, beginning of summer that I
Yeah,
was like,
something. Yeah,
hey, Marcus, I have an idea and I think you would be
like
perfect for this. What do you think? And don't
yeah,
say no until you pray about it.
yeah. Yeah. I think it was like in the June-ish time frame. But anyway, yeah. And when you first asked me to do this, I was in a positive way. I was taken aback because like me, a host of. At first, I was thinking podcast, and I didn't know if podcast was the right word because I'm not. Um, I'm uh, I'm tech savvy, but I'm not techie, if that makes sense. So like what's the proper phrasing, the proper vocabulary? But anyway, I was honored, and at the same time, I was like, okay, how host? Um, sure. I'll do that. I don't know where to start, but sure, I'll be glad to help you with that. But yeah, that was kind of my response, you know, in my head
And
anyway.
you started with Jimmy Carson episodes and researching that.
Well, Johnny Carson,
Oh, sorry.
Johnny
Oh my
Carson,
gosh, Johnny Carson.
Johnny
Yes,
Carson,
I'm thinking Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy
Jimmy
Fallon.
Kimmel, you
Yeah,
know, Johnny,
Johnny Carson, because of the
Johnny,
whole documentary I just watched about the
yes,
history of late night and how Carson set the stage in a
he
very
did.
interesting way. So I found it interesting that you started watching some of his stuff. What'd you
I
learn? You learned something specific when
I
you watched
did. Well, I learned a couple of things listening to him. First of all, he is also a comedian. He's not with us any longer, unfortunately, but he's considered to be one of the best hosts in American television history. And I think one of the things that stood out to me as to what I believe made him one of the best hosts ever is because his guest was always the spotlight. It was never about him. Um, I think a lot of today's talk show hosts could take a lot of notes from him. I'll leave that where it is. But he never put the spotlight on himself. He always put the spotlight on whoever he was interviewing, and he let them be themselves and let them basically have center stage, which I thought was pretty awesome. But that's probably the main thing I learned in watching his interviews.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was fascinated because when I watched the documentary recently about the history of late night and
Hmm.
where it started and the differences of the icons that have come to where it is today, and also the differences from back then, where it very much had one audience. You had everybody listening to you
Right,
because that was sort of the one of the only options.
right.
Now there's a lot of options. So a talk show style, series has to have its own unique format. And I think that
Yes.
Carson did something very interesting in his own unique way. And
Hmm.
Marcus, that's what I saw in you. So for the world listening, I think Marcus and I met in 2023 through a chat group.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we
that
didn't
sounds right.
start talking one on one until like summer of
Hmm.
2024. And
That's
Marcus, I
right.
don't know if you went back and listened to our first conversation where I was like, "Are you okay with voice messages? Because
Yes.
I'm making my tacos."
Yeah, that
And
was
basically, my
yeah.
entire thing was because we were talking about having a movie night for Chicken
Right.
Chat,
Yeah.
and you and I were trying to
We were
like
trying to yeah, I remember
happen.
that now. Yeah. We were trying to
Yeah,
compose that. Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. And then it turned into a friendship as well as
Hmm.
I watched the way that you conduct your life and the way that you interact with people and the way that you love on people. I have never once, ever, in the time I've known you, seen you be mean or aggressive to people. And I think
Thank you.
that is revolutionary in the world that we live in because it is very uncommon. It is unparalleled. And Marcus, it's extraordinary. So, for the world watching, I saw these characteristics in him, just like I explained last week that I saw it in Juju, Justine Kaiser, who I asked to co lead Level Up with me. Marcus, I asked him if he would host a weekly YouTube live series. Had no idea what it was going to be. We're still figuring out the details.
That's
And
good.
I asked him to say yes. And he did. I'm still not sure how, but I think it is because is an alignment of the fact that we want the same things for the world and we feel like outcasts or outliers in the same way and goofy and quirky and kind of weird. Like, I'm weird. I'm weird.
Hey,
And
normal
we
is
don't have to
overrated.
fight it.
That's right.
Exactly. I have no interest in being normal. I am
Yeah.
building a home for the freaking weirdos. Because if you don't feel like you belong, or like you could say what you want to say,
Hmm.
like other people do, if you don't feel like that, then you need a home for that.
This is true.
And I think there's a lot of times that there's normal people and then people that are outliers or whatever.
Abnormal.
But the
Yeah.
point is, like, if anybody feels like they don't belong in some way, in some particular way, they fall outside the lines, they can't color in between them, they fall through the gaps. If they feel like that, that's what we're building a home for. And there is no formula. It is just a sense of belonging. And I feel like Marcus, by you saying yes to hosting a show for me that you barely knew me, didn't know where we were going, what we were doing, you saw enough to know that you had a sense of belonging. And I'm curious to know more about that as I've talked about like my heart for outliers. You know, there's things that you have talked to me about where you have a real desire to love people
Hmm.
and to see beyond the lines of humanity in ways because of what you've experienced growing up, just like I've experienced growing up. My story is different than your story, but you've felt like an outlier or an outcast or a reject, just like I have,
Hmm.
which is what made you say yes to do this. But you're just a normal person too. So I want
Right.
to introduce everything. I want to talk about the fun stuff, but I also want to talk about your heart for people. What's the first thing you want to talk about?
Well, um, I think as far as I guess I'll call it my life's passion, it kind of started back in 2008. This is after I actually graduated from college. I got my bachelor's degree, and I started on my
And
career
what?
path in architecture. Um,
Okay.
it meant a lot of all nighters, pretty much every other night, which was not exactly uh, healthy, so to speak. But anyway, after I got my bachelor's degree, I started on my career path. I got my first career job, and I was in my early 20s, feeling pretty good about myself. And um, about 2 years after that, basically my whole life changed, and it hasn't been the same since, in a positive way as well as a negative way. I was told, this was in December of 2007, and this is something I haven't shared with you yet. I was in a church, and um, the minister had finished his sermon, and basically it came time for altar call. And then he asked if anybody needed, if it was already knew Jesus as their personal savior and just needed prayer for some specific reason. So I went up. I was having a problem. I can't remember exactly what was going on, but I was having a problem with something. Went up. My hands were raised. My eyes were closed. Um, and he was talking directly to me, and I didn't even realize it until I opened my eyes and he was looking at me. And he said, "You have the favor of God on you." I was like, "Really? Okay. What exactly does that
What?
mean?" Um, and then he said, "It's going to take you 10 years to do what it takes most people 30 years to do." To this day, I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe someday I will. But this was in December 2007. Fast forward to April 2008, I had another minister, my pastor, tell me that I had been called to basically preach the gospel. And that was another like, whoa, wow moment, because I had never seen myself as a minister. But in the same month that I received that proclamation, I also or that prophecy, I also was struck with the illness that at the time uh, did not have a name, did not have an identity, but all I knew was I had some pretty terrible symptoms going on. Um, Anybody that
Are
has
you
ever
willing to talk
heard
about
of, say it again,
it? Are you willing to talk about what you were experiencing?
to a point, yeah. Um, if anybody has heard of um, SIBO, which basically stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, um,
Wait, SIBO.
yes,
SIBO.
SIBO, yes,
Okay, what does it stand for?
small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Okay,
There is also,
it sounds very intense.
yes, it is very intense. There's also another disease with another acronym, EPI, which stands for exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which basically means that your pancreas is not secreting the enzymes needed to digest your food. If it's severe enough, it can actually be life threatening. But in I hate to say non-severe cases, but in not as severe cases, I'll put it that way. You have some pretty um, debilitating gastric symptoms in your abdomen, and I'll kind of let you guys use your imagination there. But between those two things, and also being diagnosed with IBS on top of all of that, I was having some pretty unpleasant public experiences, and it didn't matter whether I was in the grocery store, whether I was at the library, whether I was at work, whether I was at church. Yes, church. Um, I was not. I was not receiving any grace because of what my because basically my body was betraying me. That
So
was
people
in
were rejecting you
yes,
for
and most
something
of the
you couldn't
time.
control, basically.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Like people were rejecting you for something you could not physically control in your own body.
Yes, yes,
That had to be very hard.
very difficult. Yeah. Um, I went through it for about 5 years. My family didn't even know what was going on at the time. I sat my mom down, and my mom and my dad down in 2013, told them what was going on. Um, and it's now 2025, so this has been going on 19 years now that I've been dealing with this. But it's never, and I think the part that hurts the most is it's never, nobody ever comes to you face to face and says anything. It's always off in a corner. It's always in whisper. Whereas it's almost like you want to say to people, there's something wrong with my abdomen, but there's nothing wrong with my ears, guys. I can hear you loud and clear. But the and the thing I would say really to anybody is, if for someone that is the subject of negativity, they know it. Nobody has to tell them. They're aware of what's going on. Probably more hyper aware than even is normal. But it's been a terrible experience. But at the same time, I think it's been, God allows things for a reason. Um, there are certain things now that I appreciate that I would not have appreciated if it had not happened to me, like friendships, like having true confidants. I've come to find that the people that you can actually call confidant, that list is not very long. So when you
Mm.
do find one, you better hang on tight, because you're not gonna, they're not gonna come in droves. So, but just giving other people the respect that you would like to be given. Somebody may not look nice, may not smell nice, may not sound nice, may not feel nice. Anything that one of the worst, or one of the uh, one of the sad parts that I found out about human nature is if something is not appealing to the five senses, it's not going to be spoken well of. If it's not pleasing to tangibility, people are naturally so going to back away from it, which makes it hard for people that are dealing with chronic illnesses. And it's frustrating because a lot of times there aren't a lot of answers. And in the back of your mind, until you do find those answers, you're going to keep going through that because humanity's not going to change, you know, at least as far as the masses are concerned. So, I would say over these last 19, 20 years, my goal has become to be an advocate for people that are hurting, people that feel like and God knows I've been there. You feel like you really have nowhere to turn. Um, you don't have any answers. You don't know really even how to pray. Um, it seems like your prayers are hitting the ceiling. God, are you there? Do you care? I know your word says that you're with me, but I can't trace you right now. Um,
Yes. Where are you?
where are you? But
Come back.
for a great amount of time, there was, all I really had to hang on to was God's word that, yes, I do love you, son. Yes, I am here. Yes, I have suffered. Yes, I do know what shame is. And I'll say this and I'll hand it back over to you. I was in
What? This is
prayer.
your episode for
Good
once.
stuff. Good stuff. I was in prayer one night. I was in the closet, and it was in my prayer closet, I guess you could call it. And it was one of those types of prayers where it's a good thing to be by yourself because there's going to be slobber and tears and snot all over the place. But um, it was not a good day, and I cannot say I heard Jesus speak to me audibly. I didn't hear him with these ears, but I heard him with the ear of my heart, if I can put it that way. And he said to me, all of the pictures that you've ever seen depicted of me on a cross, I've always been wearing a loincloth. But when the scripture says they parted my garments, it means just that. They parted my garments without reservation. I was hanging there nude. Shame aspect number one. Shame aspect number two, I was hanging there for 6 hours. What happens if I have to go to the bathroom? Did they take me down? I had to think about that one for a minute because I never compartmentalized that in my mind as far as his suffering is concerned, that that was on display for everybody. Shame aspect number two. And and it was very enriching for me, even though I was going through, even in the midst of going through this, he was saying, I understand. I
Mhm.
get it. I've been there. I'm not distant. I'm not aloof. Um, I'm not, it's not that I do not understand. I know it seems like I don't, and it seems like I don't care because I'm not tangible. And the thing is, as you come to know me, you're going to find out more and more tangibility is not what a relationship with me is based on. It's based on faith, it's based on belief, and it's based on trust. And most of all, it's based on love, obviously. But one of the things that I'm still learning is um, life is not fair. Um, the world is not fair, but that the badness of the world does not negate the goodness of our God.
Mhm.
And He promised me that night that I would be healed. He didn't give me a timetable, so I'm in God's waiting room. I've got to trust Him. That's a tough place to be, by the way, in God's waiting room, because you don't know when He's going to show up. You don't know when things are going to get better. But um, I think He has allowed me to go through this because it's tough to help somebody else through shame if you don't understand shame yourself. It's tough to help somebody else through humiliation, through the feelings of not being wanted, the feelings of not belonging, if you have never felt that. But when you can walk up to somebody who is, sobbing in tears and feeling unwanted, and you can put your hand on their shoulder and say, I've been there, there's a connection that's made already because there's something you already have in common. But if you can't say that, you have no way of making a connection with that person. So um, that's really kind of I guess you would call it the heart of my drive for helping people in a specific group of people that are outliers, as you say, and not outliers as they're unique or they're special in this particular ability or that particular ability, but outliers in that they are literally outcast
They're
to the
different.
outside world. Yeah, because of something that they may be going through this outside of their control. How do I? Because the thing is, even though I'm going through this, you know, somehow I've got to make it through tomorrow. I can't just stop. I've got to keep going. They've got to keep going. How do you do that? So,
Mhm.
um, trying to get there myself, and also trying to, once the time comes, and the Holy Spirit will open that door, and He'll carve that path. But when that time comes, being able to assist others in um, first understanding that there is hope. Whatever it is that they're going through, it's not going to be forever. But how do they navigate the now? And that's sometimes the hardest part while you're waiting for your miracle.
Yeah, and I think navigating the how is also
Hmm.
very, very structurally built on where you came from. So let's talk about your background.
My background. All right.
So you're an only child, and yeah,
Yes.
tell me like about your upbringing and your family, your parents, your grandparents. I know they've had a very big impact on your life. I know you're super
Yes.
close to your family, and I love that because like Sundays we meet for our kumbaya, you, me, and
Yes.
Juju,
There you go.
after family time, and we all have it separately, individually,
Hmm.
in our own ways, and then we meet Sunday night. But Sunday is a day that you connect with your family, and I know family is special to you, but I know your upbringing is different from mine, given that you're an only
Hmm.
child. But
Yep.
also, aren't you like a pastor's kid too, or you're a kid of a deacon? Tell
I'm
me about
a
tell me
I'm a
about how your upbringing has influenced this vision now.
I am a deacon's son, and I know you and I have talked about this, but one thing I have always heard, kind of being a church's kid or a church kid,
Pastor's
is
kid,
that
a
uh,
PK.
is is that PKs or pastors' kids are, it's hard to be a pastor's kid, and I would say it's maybe even harder to be a deacon's kid because pastors are so busy doing so many other things that they can't necessarily watch
Father
their
you.
yeah, well, I wasn't gonna put it that way, but yeah. Whereas deacons are busy too, don't get me wrong, but they're not quite as there's not quite as much on their plate, so they can keep a
They're
much
all up in your
tighter
business.
frame. Yeah, especially being a
It sounds like my
only
parents did
kid,
when I was growing up.
yeah. If I mean, if there were brownies on the table and mom said, leave the brownies alone, I'm going to the store, I'll be back in 30 minutes. She got back in 30 minutes and the brownies were gone. I couldn't bring my
I couldn't
imaginary
blame
brother or
anyone.
sister. I was the only one in the
I
house.
couldn't
So
blame my brother.
yeah, I mean, we didn't have a dog, so I couldn't blame. Oh, well, the dog or the cat. I mean, I had nobody to blame. So if she told me do this, do that, I had no choice but to do this or do that, because if I don't do this or do that, it's going to be pretty obvious that I didn't do this or do that. So just to stay out of trouble, just practice obedience. But yeah.
So was it lonely growing up as an only kid? Because like with my brother and I, we were a year apart. But my sister, she was basically an only kid until she was 12 when my brother was born, 13 when I was born.
Mm.
So she kind of grew up until middle school, 12, 13 as an only kid, and then us two grew up alone. So I didn't grow up as an only kid. And I also have a sister that's way older that like provides a link to the like different generation of like fun adults that I always wanted to hang out with as a kid. As an only kid, I'm wondering like what was your childhood like? Like did you
It
enjoy it? Was
was
it fun? Was it boring?
it was
Like
it was it was fun. I mean, I had to. I didn't have, and I had friends here and there, just like any other. I hate to say normal, but I'll use that term,
well,
normal
you went to
kid.
school, right?
Yeah, you went to
Yeah,
school,
I was
met
homeschooled, so
friends
like
there,
I
and
didn't have friends outside.
but I did have. Um, I had a lot of instances like my dad was busy with church, with work. He had stuff going on. Not and I don't please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that to say he didn't have time for me. He was always there. He was an awesome dad. Same thing with my mom. But there were times when, I was by myself. So, being an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year old kid, I've got to find some way to amuse myself. So I got into video games a little bit. I got into, um, I grew up in, gosh, I guess I'm kind of telling my age, but late 80s, early 90s. So I watched TV quite a bit. But I did not get into. I watched a lot of TV shows, but I didn't get into a lot of movies per se, because my mom was pretty strict on not watching rated R type stuff. She would not let me do it. So,
Yeah.
and now as
Same.
an adult, I'm thankful for that, because you put that stuff in your head, and it's hard to get it back out sometimes. So,
Talk a little bit more about that. The like the fact that your parents were strict because we talked about this last night and I think it's very valuable. Both of our parents were strict, but we didn't
yes,
really appreciate it back then.
did not appreciate it then. Appreciate it now, but. Um, like for instance, I think I mentioned this, but we were neighborhood I was in. We had a group of boys. We like bike racing. I like bike racing. So we would set up ramps, like we had the middle of the street. So we'd set up, bike ramps, and so we could ride up and jump, and do flips and whatnot. So
On the cement
but
blocks.
yeah, on the cement blocks, or actually it wasn't really cement blocks. It was these are more plywood boards that we
Yeah,
were.
but the ramp is created on like cement, like
I
the
forget. It wasn't a cement block that we used, because it wasn't. We couldn't lift them. So I forget what we used, but somehow we propped it up, um,
not
and
very
at
safe,
least not
basically,
very
with
safe.
our parents.
So, but I had a ball out there until my mom or my dad happened to come out and see me, and they would basically put a stop to me doing it. They could continue to do it, but I couldn't do it anymore. So, but they were, of course, being good parents, as good parents do. You can't always be your child's friend. They saw the danger that I didn't see, and that's why they stopped me. Could have got a broken arm, broken leg, broken neck. But that's what
Yeah,
good
because when
parenting is
our
all about.
parents see us running, using our bikes to run up board ramps
Yeah,
that are like rickety and not stable on whatever we
yeah,
stuck it on to like create a ramp, and then want to like pulling ourselves off of
yeah.
it, like or
So
project ourselves off of it. Yeah, my dad. would come out and be like, "Did you understand what could happen to this? This
Yeah.
is not safe." And it didn't feel fun at the time because then my brother and I would have to be
Oh,
okay.
that didn't sound
Wow, I
good.
just lost my webcam. That's awkward. Sorry.
We will be back in a minute.
My foot caught the cord.
Oh,
It's great. Awesome. But yeah, our
sweet.
parents like saw things that we didn't see at the time, and so it didn't seem fun
Yes.
to like be pulled away from the like family or not family, but the neighborhood kid like project of like bike ramps and stuff
Yep.
or rollerblades up the ramps
Mm-hmm.
that are, I mean, just ready for disaster and a
Yes.
broken leg, a broken arm, a
Absolutely.
broken head.
A
But I
broken
think
head.
till now,
Yeah.
at the time it was just like, oh, my brother and I were the only kids having to be like, no, you can't do it. They can do it.
They
If
can
their
do it.
parents
You
let
can't
them
do
do
it.
it, they're fine.
So,
But like, no, you're not allowed to because if you break your face, like,
yeah.
we're not willing to take that risk.
Yeah. But and I guess being an only kid, my particularly when I was doing stuff that I was allowed to do, I was allowed to ride my bike and we played tag and stuff kids do. But there were times, especially being a boy, like I would fall off my bike or skin up my knee, skin up my elbow, whatever. Um, I I remember having to sneak into the house, go to the bathroom, and pull out the Neosporin or the Vaseline, pull out some
Band-aid
bandages,
yourself.
and I would bandage myself, clean the wound, bandage myself up the way I made sure my mom couldn't see me, and I would basically treat the wound, bandage it up. I would go right back outside, and she didn't see. And then, like maybe a day or two later, I'd be sitting at the dinner table, and I forgotten about the bandage on my arm, and
And
she'd
she's like,
see it
what's
like,
that?
"What was that? What happened?" And it's like, "Oh
What happened to
gosh."
you?
So
When? What
when
did you do?
I put the band-aid on and forgot about it, but yeah, but
But our parents taught us to be careful
yes.
in a way that was like simple like that, where all the kids are doing it. Like, what's
Hmm.
wrong with it? We're putting a board and on top of bricks and we're just ramping off of it. Rollerblades, bikes, whatever.
Yep.
My parents, my brothers and my parents were the ones in the neighborhood that were like, no, don't do that. It's not safe. Also, no, you can't go play in the desert behind the block because we
Yep.
can't see you
We can't see you.
and
Right.
things can happen and there is danger that
Yep.
you're not aware of, but we are. So you need to just trust
Right.
us. And we're like,
Yep.
but I appreciate that now because I
Yes.
realize, holy cow, they protected me when I didn't know I needed to be protected. And I think you have experienced the same thing.
Right. And sometimes I even hear, like in prayer, I can even hear the Holy Spirit's voice saying, "I'm no different." You know, I that there's things that I'm telling you to do I'm telling you to do this specific thing. You don't understand it right now. You don't see the repercussions of why I'm telling you not to do this and take route A and not route B. There's something on route B that you're going to run into that you're not ready to handle yet. I see that, but you don't. And that's why, just like as we're kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, have to trust their parents because they see the danger and they know they have already been where we're trying to go. In the same way, we have to trust God because He already knows. But um, just another tidbit, but that
Yeah.
I've come
Um,
across. But
it's interesting that you're saying that. Like, I see what you don't see. I sorry, I feel like this thing like totally changed color and everything when it dropped off. Whatever. Anyway, Marcus, I feel like I saw that in you, where like I see something you don't see in yourself in the way that you were just talking
ew,
about. I saw that with love. And I'm probing it out as you're seeing, but you're also like loving it, right? Because there's something that I saw in the way that that you are. And we met through the Cheeky Chat.
Yes.
And then we started talking about a movie night
Hmm.
with Cheeky Chat. And then I invited you to join Emmett's Bible study.
Bible study.
And
Yeah.
you joined and stayed.
Yes, I did.
And then we sort of just became friends like
Good
through
friends.
those
Yeah.
two groups. But when I asked you to do this, it was like not because you're an amazing person that speaks publicly on
Right.
display and is confident and wants to do this. And no, I'm like coming to you, asking you to do it for free. And you don't even want to do it in the first place. But you said, you said
You
yes.
stayed. I
you
said. I
said,
said
you
yes.
said, I
I
said,
said
you
yes.
said.
Yes, I did.
So, like, there is something that you saw um, in what I was doing with Level Up that made you interested in the first place. But there's also something in the way that I'm doing it that has um, brought you alive and brought out the parts of yourself that you didn't feel could
Mhm.
be brought out. The goofy, the fun parts of
Yes.
like when I told you I was like, I need you to do your bits for these lives. Like, welcome to the igloo.
My bits, welcome to the igloo. We're glad to have you today. We are
It's a
so
warm sun
happy.
for a
It's so
cold, cold
wonderful.
world.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I'm your main man,
I'm
Marcus.
your main man, Marcus. You could be anywhere right now, but we're so glad that you are here. Yeah. So,
Exactly. When you do your bits, which you don't really do because where else have you had the opportunity to do them?
yeah,
But I know that you have a passion for loving people. I know you have a
absolutely.
passion for wanting to maybe get into ministry or counseling. And
Yes.
you you have this passion because of the way that you were brought up and the love that you have experienced with your grandparents and with your parents and even the strictness and the
Yes.
protection, but the faith that you and foundation you've been brought up within has created where you're going. And
Right.
I feel like you are at this crux point sometimes of like, I'm weird. I don't want to be weird. And I'm just like, be weird. I want
Yeah.
you to be my host of Level Up. Do you want to do it? Don't say no until you pray about it. And then 24 hours later, you're like,
Yeah.
yes. Ah! Like,
Yep.
but
You're right.
that's why this is supposed to happen. So, what do you see in this, or what is it that like from your childhood till now, and the things that you've wanted to help people with, like you being a
Well,
host on this weekly series is an honor for me.
well,
I am
thank you,
so
man.
honored. But you're exactly it. And you have aligned to fit into the puzzle piece of this. There is no substitute for Marcus Medlock. There is no other host. If you quit, someone else is going to pop up out of nowhere, or I'm going to change plans because there is no substitute for you. So
Well, thank you, man.
you coming together in full fruition with where you've come from, where you want to go, and how this can stepping stone launch you into the comfortability of talking on display.
Yay. Yay.
Tell me your feelings and like why did you do this? Or where's your inspiration coming from for it? Tell me the story.
Well, I think, Krista, there's such a dire need. Um, and quite honestly, people aren't even, I've talked with people, they aren't even finding it in church. People need a safe place where they can go, where they're not going to be judged. There's not going to be any preconceived notions. There's only going to be love. There's only going to be grace. There's only going to be peace. There's only going to be joy. These are the things that, mm, thank you. These are the things that they're supposed to be finding in the house of God that they're not. And God's not pleased with that. But how do we provide an atmosphere where people can't wait for Monday night
Hmm.
to come and see what Level Up is going to be doing tonight? Because there's they know the they know what they're going to find as far as the atmosphere is concerned, but they don't know what to expect as far as the events are concerned, which
Hmm.
adds not only an element of belonging and let me put it this way, the element of the security of belonging, but it also adds the element of excitement, that it's not boring, it's new, it's fresh, it's if we have somebody that is in the chat that's asking a certain question, we can address their questions and they don't have to feel like, again, they don't have to feel ashamed because there's something that they want to know. And even if we don't have the answers, hey, we'll look into that. And next Monday segment, come back, we'll have an answer for you, or we'll attempt as best we can, with God's help, we will attempt to answer that question for you. But I think for me, that's the binding tie, I would say, of what drew me to Level Up is just the desire to give people, like, you go to the library and you see the little yellow sign that says safe place. um, you don't have to worry about the dangers of ridicule, which is something that is, when you're going to get that, when you walk outside the door,
Hmm.
it's just there. But people are looking for a place where they can enjoy themselves, they can be who they are and not have to be ashamed or not have to worry about somebody basically saying you shouldn't do that. It's like, well, why shouldn't they do that? That's who they are. you know who else can they be but themselves? But I think particularly here in America, there's so much, um, what's the word I'm looking for? There's so much conforming that this is what you're supposed to do because of this is the format or this is the agenda that we have, and you need to conform to our agenda. Well, who says I need to conform to your agenda? You?
Exactly.
Who made you the authority? Who made them the authority? But
Exactly.
um, but
The
people
world
need
is not the authority.
no. We know who the authority is, and he's not in the world any longer physically, but he's in charge of it. Um, but yeah, just giving people a place to go, and a place to be heard, a place to be seen, a place to be cared about.
And I think that the reason that you're a part of this is very much not just a part of how you grew up and where you're going from here and what your passions are and all of that. It is who you are. That is what I saw. That is what I saw. That is what I wanted. And who you are is a combination of so many things
Mhm.
combined with your education, your upbringing, your friendships. I mean, the person you are is spoken about even in the story that you okay, you have to tell a grape story. The grape story
Oh
on there,
yeah.
it shows the integrity of you even as a small child. And I just
So
love
um, wherever you guys live across the country, I don't know if anybody remembers Albertsons. They went out of business, but I had to be about 5, 6 years old. I'm in the grocery store
we have
and
Albertsons here.
I'm in the produce section. And for whatever reason, I was hungry. Okay. Um, I saw there were some really, really. good looking grapes sitting there. So I took one of them and I bit in, and to this day, I don't think I've ever tasted a better grape than that one. I walked outside store. My mom was waiting for me. I got in the car and I didn't, I didn't start bawling or anything, but I did not have a good feeling at all when I got in the car, because even though it was just a grape, the grape didn't belong to me. So I felt I did not have the right to take the grape. And I felt awful. And I went home and I put myself on like a mini punishment. I wouldn't watch TV. I couldn't exit my room. And I felt so awful about the grape. Even to this day, I go to the store and I buy the grapes first now, take the grapes home, and I start eating them, and I start thinking about that incident. Um, but my
That
mom
one grape.
never, that one grape, my mom, dad never knew about it. I never told them about it. But yeah, it really bothered me that even something that small, I took something that wasn't mine. So, and I knew that I had been taught, don't steal. So even if it's something as minute as that, it's still theft and it's still wrong. So I felt like I needed to repent, and in my own way, I guess I did. Um, but yeah,
Well, and I think that says a lot about you because your mom didn't even know. You didn't even tell her. You repented on your own because you felt so bad.
yeah, I
In
felt
my
hard.
situation, a similar story where we were, I don't know, like the coffee machine place, Kinko's or whatever, and I took paper clips. Why is this blurry? I don't know why it's blurry.
Yeah, it's a little blurry,
There we go.
but that's okay.
I took paper clips. I didn't repent on my own. I'm pretty sure my mom was the one who saw the paper clips that I had, and then she's like, "Where'd you get those?" And I was like, from Kinko's." And then she took me back, and I had to hand them to the manager and apologize. And it was mortifying. And I was probably like, I don't know, like 5 years old or whatever, like, or seven or something. It was so embarrassing.
Yeah,
But I had to apologize to the manager of the store for taking something that wasn't mine, and I
yeah,
learned a lesson about stealing, and that taught me a big lesson because
yeah.
my mom could have let it flown by,
Hmm.
like, or let it fly by when I had paper clips that didn't belong to me that
Right.
I whatever. No, she taught me a lesson. I love that you taught your own self a
I
lesson, and your
did.
mom
Yeah,
didn't even have
I
to see
felt
it.
awful.
You just put your own self in punishment.
Yeah,
I didn't even feel bad until my mom was like, "Those aren't yours," and I'm like, "They're just paper clips. They have a lot of them." Like, and she's like, "They're not yours.
right.
When did you take those? Did
Yeah,
you take them with me watching, or did you take them with me not watching?" I was like, "Hey, no, I made sure you were watching because they knew what I was doing was wrong." Like, I admire you, Marcus, and
well, thank you.
that is one of many reasons I want you to host these weekly YouTube lives, and you can emulate Carson or any of the late night show hosts or create your own Marcus Medlock version of it. But what it is going to be raw, real, authentic, and vulnerable and show real life on display. And you won't get the opportunity to talk on display in the future like you will on this episode. So I really wanted the world to hear your voice. So, in conclusion, please tell the world one of your favorite quotes, and then we'll end with that.
One of my favorite quotes. Can I give two of my favorite quotes?
Absolutely.
All right. Um, I'd say my absolute favorite quote is by Dr. Martin Luther King. He said, "Hate cannot drive out hate. or excuse me, light, darkness. I always get it wrong, and it's my favorite quote.
We
Darkness
all do.
cannot drive out darkness. Light can only do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I thought it was very profound. And secondly, um, probably second in line of favorite quotes is actually by Plato. He said, "A wise man speaks because he has something to say, and a fool because he has to say something." Very profound and very true. Um,
Yes.
a lot of there's oh my gosh, I guess that pretty much sums it up. There's a lot of fools out there right now, but talking about a lot of stuff they have no idea what's coming out of their mouth, but that doesn't stop the hot air. So, um,
But
but
the first quote, love can drive
yes,
out hate.
yes,
Light can drive out darkness.
yes,
That that's what we do here.
yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do.
So on that note, Marcus, this is your official introduction. Welcome to Marcus Medlock. And we'll see you next week for the last introduction of the Court Pod Squad. And after that, you'll see what happens. So, thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye